In the world of technology, there are thousands of brands, but only a few that changed how humanity thinks, creates, and connects. And one of those names shines brighter than the rest: Apple. From a small garage in California to becoming the most valuable company on the planet, Apple's story is not just about computers and phones. It's about vision, obsession with perfection, and the courage to dream different when the whole world doubted you. So let's go back in time and uncover the incredible journey of Apple Inc. The struggles, the innovation, the genius minds, and the emotional story behind the bitten Apple logo. It all began in 1976 in a small suburban garage in Los Altos, California. Three young dreamers, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. They decided to start a company that would change the world. Steve Jobs was just 21. Wozniak, the tech wizard, was 26. And Ronald Wayne, the older and more experienced one, was 41. They named their company Apple Computer Company. Why Apple? Jobs once said he chose the name because he loved apples. Simple, friendly, and not intimidating like most tech names. He was also on a fruitarian diet at that time. Another reason? Apple would appear before Atari in the phone book. Jobs' clever marketing mind even worked on that level. But the real story wasn't about a name. It was about a dream to make computers for the people, not just for scientists or corporations. They didn't have fancy offices or millions in funding. They had one small garage, a few circuit boards, and a burning desire to change the future. Wozniak built the Apple I by hand, a simple computer with a keyboard and a screen output. Jobs sold his Volkswagen van, and Wozniak sold his HP calculator to raise money. Together, they created the first prototype. When Jobs showed the Apple I to a local store called Byte Shop, the owner agreed to buy 50 units for $500 each, but only if they were fully assembled. Jobs promised delivery in 30 days. That single deal became the first spark of the Apple revolution. The Apple I sold modestly, but Jobs and Wozniak weren't satisfied. They wanted something bigger, something that would make people fall in love with technology. In 1977, they launched the Apple II, one of the first mass-produced personal computers. It was colorful, user-friendly, and ready to use right out of the box, a revolutionary idea in the 1970s. This time, Apple caught fire. The sales skyrocketed. For the first time, ordinary people could own a computer at home. Kids could learn programming, businesses could manage records, and hobbyists could explore digital creativity. Apple became a household name almost overnight. By 1980, Apple went public, and its stock exploded. Steve Jobs became a millionaire at 25. But behind that success, a storm was brewing. Jobs was brilliant, but also known for being perfectionist, intense, and often brutally demanding. His obsession with design, detail, and vision sometimes clashed with others at Apple, especially with the new CEO, John Sculley, whom Jobs had personally hired from Pepsi with the famous line, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?" Yes, it's hard to believe Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. After the success of Apple II, Apple launched the Macintosh in 1984. The Mac was revolutionary. It had a graphical user interface and a mouse, something no one had seen before. But despite the hype, the sales didn't meet expectations. Jobs' aggressive leadership and disagreements with Sculley led to a power struggle. Eventually, the board sided with Sculley, and Jobs was forced out of Apple in 1985. He was only 30, rich, famous, and suddenly broken. In his own words, "I was out, and it was devastating. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone." But instead of giving up, Jobs turned pain into power. He started a new company called Next, focused on building advanced computers for universities and businesses. And he also bought a small animation studio from George Lucas. That studio later became Pixar Animation Studios. Yes, the same Pixar that made Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. While Jobs was rebuilding himself, Apple, without him, began to lose its magic. The company's products became confusing, expensive, and uninspired. Sales dropped. Competitors like Microsoft dominated the market. By the mid-1990s, Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy. In 1996, Apple made a desperate move. They bought Next, the very company Jobs had founded after leaving Apple. Along with that deal, Jobs returned. It was like a fallen king coming back to save his kingdom. At first, Jobs was just an advisor, but soon he took full control as interim CEO and began cleaning house. He cut down Apple's product line from dozens of messy models to just 4 clear categories: consumer desktop, consumer laptop, professional desktop, professional laptop. Then came the turning point, the iMac. Launched in 1998, the iMac was colorful, bold, and beautifully designed. It wasn't just a computer, it was art. And the world noticed. Sales exploded. Apple was profitable again. And the Apple brand started to regain its cool, futuristic image. But Jobs wasn't done. He had bigger dreams. In the early 2000s, Apple transformed from a computer company into a digital lifestyle company. In 2001, Apple launched the iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. It changed the music industry forever. iTunes became the world's biggest music store, and suddenly, Apple wasn't just about computers. It was about creativity, freedom, and emotion. Then, in 2007, came the moment that redefined modern technology: the iPhone. When Steve Jobs walked on stage and said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone," the crowd went silent, and then history was made. The iPhone combined a phone, an iPod, and an internet device into one. No physical keyboard, just a touchscreen. Clean, elegant, powerful. It destroyed everything that came before it. Nokia, BlackBerry, Motorola, all gone. Then came the App Store, 2008, iPad, 2010, and a new world of connected devices. Apple became not just a brand, but a lifestyle. But while Apple was soaring to the top, Steve Jobs was fighting a deadly battle with pancreatic cancer. He kept working, even through pain and surgeries. In 2011, he stepped down as CEO, saying, "I have always said, if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple CEO, I would be the first to let you know." Unfortunately, that day has come. On October 5th, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away. He was just 56. The world mourned the man who had changed technology forever. Apple's website displayed nothing but his photo and a simple message: Steve Jobs, 1955-2011. But his spirit, his obsession with design, simplicity, and perfection still lives inside every Apple product. After Jobs, Tim Cook became CEO. Many doubted whether Apple could survive without its visionary founder, but Cook proved himself a calm, smart, and strategic leader. Under him, Apple expanded into new territories: Apple Watch, AirPods, Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, and Apple Vision Pro. Apple also became the first company in history to hit a $3 trillion market value, a number so big it's almost unbelievable. While Apple is still often criticized for being corporate and not as revolutionary as during Steve Jobs' era, the truth is it still holds the DNA of Steve Jobs: simplicity, quality, and elegance. The bitten apple, one of the most recognized logos in the world. But what does it mean? Many believe it's a tribute to Alan Turing, the man who cracked the Nazi Enigma code during World War II, and is considered the father of modern computing. Turing died after eating a cyanide-laced apple. The bite in the Apple logo is seen by some as a silent homage to him. Although Apple's designer Rob Yanoff said the bite was just to differentiate the apple from a cherry, the emotional theory still lives on, and somehow it fits Apple's legacy of genius, sacrifice, and innovation. Apple's story is more than business history. It's a lesson in resilience, creativity, and courage. It's the story of a college dropout who refused to accept limits.
Of a company that rose, fell, and rose again, stronger than ever. Of a dream that began in a garage and changed how billions of people live, work, and communicate. Steve Jobs once said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." And that's exactly what Apple did.